Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are decoding the exact blueprint the top 1% use to build lasting wealth. Seriously, if you've ever felt like you're grinding away, working incredibly hard, but somehow never actually getting ahead, yeah, you're not alone. The system is fundamentally designed to keep us waiting for that next payday. But we're going to break down exactly how to change that, starting with a pretty shocking reality about who actually holds all the wealth. So when we look at the breakdown of the world's richest people, something wild jumps out. 75% are entrepreneurs, 15% are investors, 7% are inheritors, and 3% are top-tier athletes or entertainers. But wait, notice what's missing there? Absolutely 0%, literally zero, are simply employees who only earn a salary. And every single one of those top four groups, they have one massive thing in common. They own things. And honestly, that brings us to the ultimate secret of wealth. If you don't own something, you are what's owned. I know it sounds harsh, right? But think about it. The modern system is literally set up so you get paid, spend almost all of it on basic survival, like food, shelter, water, and then you're forced to go right back to work just to survive the next month. The only way to break out of this modern-day hamster wheel is to transition from being owned by your monthly bills to actually owning assets that generate money for you in the background. All right, so let's dive right into the practical framework for this. We call it the 25, 15, 50, 10 rule. We're going to divide your income into four strict buckets: 25% for growth, 15% for stability, 50% for essentials, and 10% for rewards. Let's break it down. Starting off with step 1, 25% for growth. This is all about building your asset engine. To see exactly why you need to start this immediately, let's talk about Billy and Phil. So Billy invested just $200 a month, starting way back at age 20. Phil, well, he waited until he was 30 and then tried to catch up by investing $300 a month. Fast forward to age 60. Phil actually put in way more of his own out-of-pocket cash over the years. But because Billy started earlier, the absolute magic of compound growth kicks in. Billy ends up with over $1.2 million, while Phil sits at just under $678,000. It's wild, but it proves the old saying, time in the market absolutely beats timing the market. Now, the crucial part here is choosing the right vehicles for this growth. You shouldn't be out there guessing on individual stocks or, throwing your hard-earned cash at crypto moonshots right out of the gate. You need a boring, highly reliable foundation. On the safe end, we're talking index funds and real estate. Right in the sweet spot in the middle, high-income skills like coding or sales. These actually offer the fastest return on investment because, well, no one can ever take them away from you. You really need to master these safe foundations before you even glance at the risky alternatives. And the absolute best way to make sure this actually happens? Automate it. Automate your investments directly into tax-advantaged accounts, like a Roth IRA if you're in the US or a stocks and shares ISA in the UK. Literally the very second your paycheck hits. Out of sight, out of mind. A super simple, highly recommended setup is a 3-fund portfolio. You've got a US stock index fund for that major growth, an international stock index fund for global exposure, and a bond fund to kind of smooth out the bumpy market rides. Depending on your age, you just tweak the balance between the aggressive stocks and the stable bonds. Moving on to step 2, 15% for stability. This is your financial shield. Because without this protective shield, everything can literally fall apart in an instant. Let's look at a classic cautionary tale, the VW Golf disaster. Imagine you buy a finance car because, well, you need it for work, right? But then out of nowhere, the engine completely blows up. If you don't have backup cash, you are forced to borrow more money at terrible interest rates just to keep your job. Just like that, a single emergency wipes out an entire year of financial progress. To stop this from happening, you absolutely need a stability fund equal to 5 months of your baseline living expenses. But to make sure this shield actually protects you when the unexpected hits, your stability fund has to follow 3 ironclad rules. First, easy access. You need to be able to get this cash in under 24 hours with 0 penalties. Second, 0 risk. Seriously, do not put your emergency fund in the stock market. And third, it must always earn. Park it in a high-yield savings account so inflation doesn't secretly eat away at your purchasing power. Now, I know saving 5 months of expenses sounds incredibly daunting, but you can actually build this buffer up really fast. First up, use a paycheck sweep, just automatically moving that 15% the absolute second you get paid. Second, make what we call a replacement promise. If you do have to dip into the fund for a genuine emergency, you strictly promise yourself to top it back up next payday.
And finally, save by spending. Things like Roundup apps turn your daily spare change into savings. It sounds like a tiny drop in the bucket, but trust me, it accelerates your progress without you even feeling it.
Okay, let's get into step 3, 50% for essentials. Mastering discipline.
Here is a frankly staggering fact. Over 60% of Americans earning six-figure salaries are still living entirely paycheck to paycheck. How is that even mathematically possible? Well, it happens because as people earn more money, they let lifestyle creep take the wheel. They start confusing actual essentials, like basic groceries and keeping a roof over their head, with luxuries. They just keep upgrading their lives until their massive income is totally devoured by massive expenses. You really have to consider the difference between looking rich and actually being rich. On one hand, picture someone with a flashy, expensive watch and a luxury car lease, but they've only got $43 in the bank and a stack of overdue credit card bills. On the other hand, picture someone wearing just basic clothes, driving a reliable used car, but they're sitting on a fully funded stability fund and thousands of dollars quietly compounding in investments. True wealth is what you don't see. It's not the rapidly depreciating liabilities people buy just to impress strangers. So to keep your essentials strictly capped at that 50% mark, you've got to take willpower completely out of the equation. Why? Because willpower always fades when you're tired or stressed. Instead, rely on systems, like the 7-day rule. Whenever you get the itch to buy something non-essential, just force yourself to wait exactly 7 days. Most of the time, that urge, it'll completely vanish. But if you still really want it after a week, ask yourself honestly, am I buying this for the brand or for the actual value? A $60 pair of boots you're going to wear 100 times, that is incredible value. A $200 pair of designer sneakers you might wear twice, that's just falling for slick marketing. And finally, we arrive at step 4, 10% for rewards, the sustainability's secret. Now, you might be super tempted to take this final 10% and just dump it into your investments too, but the data strongly advises against doing that. Get this, 92% of people overspend heavily after periods of intense restrictive saving. Why does that happen? Because trying to manage your money without any joy quickly starts to feel like a prison sentence. You hold on as long as you can, and then you eventually crack, binge spend, and ruin all that hard work. This 10%, it isn't an excuse to be reckless. It is a calculated strategy to make your financial discipline truly sustainable over the long haul. By preloading this 10% into a separate bank account, let's call it a joy jar, you are actively giving yourself permission to actually enjoy the journey. Prioritize experiences over physical junk. We're talking vacations to protect your mental health, hobbies to keep your passions alive, nights out to build your social network, and gifts for the people you love. When the joy jar is empty, you just wait. But when it's got cash in it, you spend it completely guilt-free. As we wrap up this explainer on the 25-15-50-10 framework, I really want to leave you with one final question to think about. Are you building an asset engine to own your freedom, or are you just working to be owned by your bills? By directing 25% to growth, 15% to a protective shield, capping your lifestyle at 50%, and rewarding yourself with that final 10%, you are actively choosing freedom. The math is all right here, the blueprint is in your hands, the rest is up to you. Thanks so much for joining me today, and hey, take that first step towards ownership right now.